When I was writing the script for this video, I took a long time to think about what kind of hook I wanted to use for the intro. The next generation of content creation hardware is now. Go XLR? Don't you mean the no XLR? Are you excited for your first Beacn boner? Beacn dunked on everybody, but in a good way. But honestly, screw all of those. How about this one? Stop shitting your pants, stupid! Get a Beacn Mix Create. All right, on a serious note, I was a little lost when it came to how I wanted to start this video. As someone who got a Go XLR and sold it to my brother within a week because it wasn't really a good fit for my setup, I missed out on a lot of the awesome features that the Go XLR had. Now, I am somebody who firmly believes that the Go XLR is still one of the best devices and most fantastic fit devices for content creators. It's feature rich, it's a powerful niche device that brings a professional-ish audio solution to normal everyday creators. Now, as far as the Beacn Mix Create, it alone is not a device that you can just pin up against the Go XLR. Different feature set, different mission, different price. This is not a comparison video, although I will make some references. What the Beacn Mix Create does, it does really well, and it has a couple of cool tricks up its sleeve too. It's been really awesome getting to use this device over the past month or so, and I'm super excited to go over it with you. As per usual, a disclaimer, Beacn did send out this device for free so that I could assist them with the beta process and give them some feedback. So there was no contractual agreement for any content in return, but them knowing I'm a content creator, they probably thought I was going to create some content about it. Beacn had no control over the script, unable to interject any talking points, and they did not pay for the review or have final cut. So, all in all,
this video's sponsored.
Let us focus our eyeballs on the product and its features. So I'm going to do a quick run through of its key points and its feature list, and then we're going to talk about its software, how I use it, and then how you might end up using it. So what is the Beacn Mix Create? So unlike its little brother, the Beacn Mix, which is an audio controller, the Beacn Mix is a digital audio mixer. So this device is USB only with no XLR, no 3.5 millimeter inputs or outputs, and it uses the power of its software along, tying into Windows Audio to assist you with your audio mixing and routing needs. It's the mixing and routing capabilities of this device that allow you to send your audio where you want, as loud or as quiet as you want. It's meant to be hardware agnostic and work with whatever microphone you already have. Let's break that down. Physical attributes. Like the Mix Create has a single USB 2.0 Type-C connection on the back, and the included cable is a USB Type-C to Type-A, matching the color of your device. Nice touch, Beacn. It's sporting the same 5-inch 800 by 480 resolution screen that the Beacn Mix has. There are 4 infinite scrolling wheels that have push-to-click functionality, and there are dedicated paging buttons for moving left and right to navigate through your sources. There is a single button for switching between your personal mix and your audience mix, and mute buttons. Push the button, mute the fader. That's all it does. Submixing. The Beacn Mix Create allows you to mix all of your audio and separate it into 2 different mixes. And those 2 mixes are called the personal mix and the audience mix. This allows you to have 2 unique mixes, so the audio is perfect for both you and your audience. The Mix Create has a dedicated mix switch button, so you can listen to either your mix or the audience mix in real time. So switch back and forth as you please. On the far right side of the device, you have page left and page right. The Mix Create allows you to add more than 4 sources, which means you'll have some things to scroll through, using the paging buttons to scroll through your channels and adjust what you need to on the fly. Routing. The next part, and arguably the coolest part of the Mix Create, is the dynamic routing table. So touching on what we just talked about with knob paging, every time you add a source within software, you're going to be adding a column in your routing table. You have 3 outputs with the routing table: personal mix, audience mix, and then the chat mic. Technically, there's a 4th output because you can copy just your chat mic over to another piece of hardware if you want, which this is exactly how I get my Beacn mic from my streaming PC over to my gaming PC. Mute modes. With mute modes, instead of just muting a source or a channel for both you and the audience, you can mute one for one and one for the other, or you can mute them both. So this means that you could essentially play music for yourself and play different or no music for your audience. Not only that, you can choose a mute mode for each mute button. So if you want one channel to always mute just for you, but another channel to mute for everybody, you can do that. You've got choices. Now, before I show you the software, I do want to make just a couple things clear. I'm sorry, I like prefacing my explanations. Context is everything. I am not proficient with GoXLR setups and features. I had one for like 5 days. So please understand that my excitement and surprise regarding how the Beacn Mix works is because this is new to me. And while this might seem very familiar to you, it's not to me. So I'm trying not to overhype because I didn't get enough time to play around with these other devices like I did the Mix Create. So I'm sorry if I missed something. I'm sorry if I didn't explain something well enough, but I hope to give you a good general overview so you can grasp what is going on with the Beacn Mix Create. And if you don't, that's okay. It took 3 calls with Kick Tripod and tinkering around with my setup for me to fully wrap my head around how this all works. Because I have a dual PC setup, and because I'm also using a Beacn Mix, my roles are kind of split between the 2 devices. So it might look like I'm not really utilizing the Beacn Mix Create to its full potential, but what I'm using, I am loving. So as a quick software overview, again, just like any of the other Beacn products, we have the profiles in the top left. So you will have a single device listed for each one of the devices that you have. So right now I have a mic and a Beacn Mix Create plugged into my streaming PC and a Beacn Mix plugged into my gaming PC. If I wanted to create a duplicate of this profile, I can. Yeah, we're back. Sorry, one of the bugs. I'm just gonna go back to my profile. So first and foremost, being able to save profiles, being able to revert to them, make duplicates of them, super awesome. Directly to the right of that, you have your device tray. I have my mic collapsed right now because we're not really paying attention to that. And then you can see the Beacn main profile editor and then these settings as well. All right, meat and potatoes. Right now, what you are seeing are all of the sources that I have set. Obviously, all of this is going to change depending on who you are. You will most likely have a hardware, system, and mic channel just like I do. As far as any of the other ones outside of that, your mileage is going to vary. Starting at the top, you have the name of the channel. You have the ability to delete that channel with the little chevron on the right. You have your left fader, which is your personal mix, and then you have your right fader, which is your audience mix. If you want, you can adjust them both at the same time, or you can unlink them and adjust your personal mix one way and your audience mix another way. Right below that is a list of all of the recording devices that Windows is detecting. So the line in from my motherboard audio, my Roland VT3, Logitech C920 webcam. It also sees NDI inputs. It sees capture cards. It sees USB microphones. It sees mixers. To the right of that, we have your system, which this is the default playback device that the Beacn is using for delivering sound to your ears. Now, again, the way that Beacn Mix does this, especially with the routing table, I'm a little new to all of this, so if I'm not explaining it the best, I apologize. There's going to be some tutorials out from Kick Tripod and Beacn, and if you're looking for a real nitty-gritty breakdown, they're going to be your best bet. Typically, I'm only using these 4 sources because I have the Beacn Mix and the Beacn Mix Create. I'm not utilizing the full device. I do have 2 more sources added here just for demonstration's sake. If I wanted to add another one, you click on the plus button to the right, and you can add any of them listed here. Listed below where all of your sources are, you have your mute button and your mute mode. So we were talking a little bit earlier on setting a mute mode per channel. This is where you do that. Right now, I just have them on all mute to all. I haven't found a reason to change them from the default yet. I might in the future. Below that, we have our mixes. So just like the Beacn Mix, you can press and hold down a knob on any of the channels and it will switch your listening devices. So if you have a pair of headphones and you also have a pair of speakers, you can set those accordingly in these 2 drop downs and then switch between them very, very quickly. I can't remember the significance of this. Oh God, I'm sorry. Last but certainly not least is the routing table. This is the aspect of the software that is going to look the most familiar to any GoXLR users. So with the Beacn Mix Create, you have 3 outputs: your personal mix, your audience mix, and your voice chat mic. Every source that you add in the mixer up above will get added as a column in the routing table down here. So those last 2 that I added at the end here, if you don't want to send that audio to certain places, you can just by checking and unchecking these devices in the routing table. This gives you immense control over where your audio goes and where it doesn't go. And especially when it comes to dual PC audio, this is kind of a lifesaver. One thing to note, which I will explain a little bit later, this voice chat to mic chevron gives you the ability to copy your mic signal and send it out anywhere that you want.
More on that later. One of the last pieces, you'll notice that some of my channels are a little bit empty. The final piece that ties the Beacn Mix Create into your system is utilizing the Windows App Mixer. So in the top right of the software, if you click this little button right here, it will open the volume and device properties, where in here you can set an app to default to a certain channel. So for example, if I wanted all of my Discord audio to be in channel aux1, I come up here to Discord, I select the output and I select aux1. All right, so this was working before and now all of a sudden it's not working. This is perfect. When you take one of these software devices and you actually assign it to one of these virtual audio devices, it will appear in the drop down here that will let you get individual control. So if you wanted to assign Discord, Zoom, Google Chats, right, all of those things to just that channel, you can do that. So a little bit differently than how the Beacn Mix works, where the Beacn Mix automatically detects all of the apps, puts them in certain categories, and then you just drag and drop. This is how it acts a little bit differently. A quick thing to highlight about the mute. So you can, if you want to mute, actually click on the mute button for that fader in the software if you happen to be using your mouse at the time. Or if you want to mute both simultaneously, depending on the mute mode that you have, if you tap the mute button on the Mix Create itself, it will mute those in the software.
The question that everyone has been asking, how the hell are you using the Beacn Mix Create for a dual PC setup? So my Beacn Mix Create and my Beacn mic are both plugged into my streaming PC via USB. So on top of that, I also have one 15-foot 3.5 millimeter cable going from the gaming PC line out to the streaming PC line in. And then I have a second 15-foot 3.5 millimeter cable going from my streaming PC line out, which is the green, to the gaming PC line in, which is your blue port. That's it. So one of those lines has a ground noise loop isolator in it. The other one, I didn't need it. What the hell, computer? My headphones plug into the Beacn mic, so I can monitor both my voice in real time and hear both PCs at the same time. So yes, both PCs audio is going through the Beacn Mix Create into the Beacn mic and then into my headphones in almost real time. The mic monitoring is real time. I think by the time the mic goes all the way from mic to Mix Create to streaming PC to gaming PC, it's in between 30 and 50 milliseconds. Okay, so mic, Mix Create, plugged in USB, and then two 3.5 millimeter cables. How am I getting my mic over to the gaming PC? So the big brains over at Beacn added an option in the routing table to copy your voice chat mic over to a hardware output. So any motherboard audio or USB audio interface, you could send your mic out of it. So I'm using my Mix Create to select my motherboard out as a way to send my mic out of my PC. And then on my gaming PC, I just set that input as my primary recording device. Going back to PC audio, all of my gaming PC audio goes over to the streaming PC via that 3.5 millimeter cable. The cool thing about that is because I have a Beacn Mix on my gaming PC, even though all of the audio is going over a single stereo cable, I have individual app control with the Beacn Mix. So I know not everybody is going to have all three of these devices out of the gate. I also don't think that's even recommended, but having that individual app control of the audio that's leaving my gaming PC is a nice touch. So I know that's going to be a question for a lot of creators. Do I need a Beacn Mix Create and a Mix if I'm dual PC? Well, I do. But then I have to ask myself this: if I didn't get any of these products for free, would I be buying all three? I don't know. When I'm not streaming or creating content, I still want the functionality of a Beacn Mix on my gaming PC. It's just a bunch of extra convenience. And if I love anything in this world, it's spending extra money on convenience. The hardest part about this setup is learning all of the virtual ins and outs, learning what a default recording device and playback devices are, learning how to set up the software correctly. It can be a nightmare. Growing up, my friends called me Diagram Documentation Jesus. So here's a very detailed mapping of how my setup is connected, including what ports on my motherboard, what the default devices are set to and labeled as, and more. You can download a full-size PNG in the video description in case you want to zoom in. I will also upload the draw.io file that I use to build this document in case you want to build one for yourself. So what's the downside to this sort of setup? Well, unfortunately, multi-track recording. In OBS, because you're using the Beacn Mix Create to do all of the mixing, you can't record multi-track audio. And that can be a bummer to a lot of people, especially people that are recording their streams locally while they're streaming. All right, Beacn Mix Create. What do I like? I feel like while going through the overview of the device, you've gotten a really good sense of what I find dope in this device. So I'm just going to cover a few more small things that really stand out to me. I love that there are dedicated mute buttons. On the Mix, if you press a knob without paying too much attention, the values of the channel can change. But on the Mix Create, press the dedicated mute button and there's no change. So speaking of buttons, the responsiveness of the button press is quite lovely. 10 out of 10. Next, I'm a huge fan of the look, the feel, the finish, the themes, the colors, the attention to detail. Nothing more to say about that. I think some people will pick it up and think it feels cheap, but once you get it on the desk, you feel the rubber feet really cement the device to your gaming mat and then start playing around with it, you might change your mind. I like how, with the help of the Beacn mic, the Mix Create has replaced my 2 mixers, multiple USB audio interfaces, 2 ground noise loop isolators, 2 hum destroyers, and just a spaghetti monster of cables. So don't get me wrong, my needs as a streamer have changed since I stopped playing video games and stopped doing such an extravagant show. So while I would have been able to downsize a little bit, this simplified my setup a lot. And it took one phone call with tripod to walk me through connecting the 2 PCs with the 3.5 millimeter cables and then connecting the devices in software. And then it took me 2 more times to actually figure out what I was doing. So I'm keeping all of this Beacn hardware in my setup for now. Next up, the ability to plug in any USB audio device and then input it into the digital audio mixer is bonkers. It's super cool. So let's say you have a USB microphone or an XLR microphone already, and you just want to plug in an extra 4-channel analog mixer so that you can add a mic, a guitar, an Amazon Alexa, add Magnum condoms to shopping cart. Sorry. You can plug it in, add it as an auxiliary device in the Beacn software, and now you can do with that audio whatever you want. That's super awesome. Lastly, I love the look of the software. I think that Beacn's design team is on point. Even like, look at their website. Their website is just absolutely gorgeous. So I feel like the software itself flows really well. It took me a little getting used to where things were located, and sometimes you find yourself not really going top down, left to right. You're kind of going in a circle sometimes, but I got used to it pretty fast. So I love the color. I love the typeface choices. I love the cleanliness of the UI. Great job. What don't I like? I want to preface this with my tiny brain cannot comprehend what it takes to develop software, to code, to build algorithms. It's beyond me. And I know that my desire for features that only benefit me personally can cloud the vision of the product for the everyday person. So with that said, I feel like there is some room to grow as far as buttons. Having the Mix and the Mix Create next to each other that have buttons that do different things is a little jarring. Again, they aren't expecting you to buy both the Mix and the Mix Create, so that I understand. On the Mix, you press down the knob to mute. On the Mix Create, pressing down the knob does nothing. A single press does nothing. So maybe they're leaving room for growth there. Who knows? This isn't something that I didn't like. This is more so just a heads up in case this happens to you, because I think Craig said that this was fixed in mass production. One of the buttons that I had wouldn't click down, and I actually had to take the button off and then shave off the tiniest bit of plastic with a sharp blade. It was stopping the button from being pressed. Fixed easily. As far as the knob paging goes, I didn't like this, and then I liked it, and then the more changes I made, the kind of more I disliked it. And again, I think this is just an anecdotal thing. If you have 6 sources and 4 sources are shown on page 1, when you press the right page button, it only shifts over enough to bring the 2 sources into view. So instead of having 4 sources on page 1 and then page 2 moving over and only showing 2 of those 4 sources, my brain really has a hard time of adjusting to that. I'm fully aware that I could be wrong on this one. A couple miscellaneous things. I voiced these small things in my Beacn Mix review. I'll echo them here. The thick black bezel hurts me just a tiny bit. And then there is some LCD burn-in. So if you want some additional information on both of those things, check out the Beacn Mix review on this channel. As far as the software goes, I do have to give a small whispered warning that the software still might have some glitches and bugs. It's going to get cleaned up. But I'm not going to sit here and say that it's 100% polished and ready to go. As long as you understand that this is a brand new company dropping brand new products, and while the team is beyond knowledgeable and talented and experienced, they're trying to take on the world, and there's going to be a couple road bumps. So none of the negatives with the software stability are game changers for me. None of them have had to make me restart my PC in the middle of a stream or in the middle of creating content, and that's what matters most. So some tiny road bumps. In conclusion, this is a really, really neat device, and it has been super awesome to experience it and getting to play with it, getting to play with modern day digital audio equipment that's geared towards content creators. And of course, because my workload is split between the two computers and I have a Beacn Mix in my setup as well, I feel like I'm not getting the full use out of my Mix Create. So once these products really get out into the wild, I think I'll have my eyes open to what cool and creative things can be done with this device. Beacn, they just hit the ground running and they came out swinging. And these 3 products that they released have been fantastic for their first. Once these devices get into the hands of gamers and creators, I'm really excited to see where Beacn takes these products, especially after all of the feedback and reviews come in. It's been quite obvious that Beacn has a firm grasp and understanding of what content creators need, and I think this is the start of a really interesting and exciting journey. And hey, if you happen to have any questions about these products or you want to see them in action, swing on by the live stream during Tech Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and ask some questions. Wednesday shows are dedicated to discussing and reviewing tech in the streaming space, and we do live tech Q&As every week. Thank you for checking out this video, and I'll see you soon.